All right, hi Vue.js Live, thank you for having me. And let's start with some numbers, shall we? So, what do you think 2 million refers to? Well, I give you that one. That's the number of downloads Nuxt.js had over the last 30 days. What can 16 million be then? Well, you probably saw that one coming. That's the number of downloads Vue.js itself had over the last 30 days. So, all right, Vue is 16 million, Nuxt is 2 million. What can 14 million be in that story? Must be something big. Well, turns out that's the number of downloads Nuxt modules altogether had over the last 30 days. Interesting stat, huh? Well, this can only mean two things. First of all, like maybe one person installed 14 million modules over the last 30 days, or that on average, every Nuxt project uses 7 modules. Math cannot figure out which one is true. But, well, to me, this definitely means that Nuxt modules are a central part of Nuxt. And I'd like to talk to you about them today. So let's talk about Nuxt 3 modules. We'll see what they are about, how you can make some, but also more importantly, why you'd like to make some. And finally, we'll see how they can help you to get involved and get started with open source thanks to Nuxt modules. So let's talk about that. But, well, first of all, I'm Lucie Haberer. I'm from France, as you probably guessed from my accent. I started my developer journey working with MediaWiki, the software Wikipedia runs on. But nowadays, I'm working at Prismic as a developer experience engineer. I'm having fun at Prismic, managing its company open source ecosystem, and Prismic is a CMS and page builder. Finally, I'm a proud Nuxt contributor and core team member. I've been working with Nuxt for almost 6 years now, so you start to see the link with this talk. But anyway, enough me chatting, let's get to the talk. And I want to try something a bit with this talk to make it interactive. Just a bit, don't worry. So I built this thing that works like Kahoot, except there's no funny music, and you don't get more points for being fast. But basically, it allows me to prompt you about something. And the first thing I'd like to prompt you about is, have you ever written a Nuxt modules? So please, grab your smartphone and scan one of those QR codes to submit your answer. Alternatively, you can just follow the links if you're on a laptop. And, well, let's see what it's about. Well, not gonna lie, that's what I expected. That's great. Like, most students didn't write Nuxt module here, and that's perfectly fine. So, well, let's talk about them. Like, what are Nuxt modules? So, and also no worries, if you're new to Nuxt and like don't know what is it, I will make it beginner friendly so everyone is able to follow along. So, Nuxt, as some of you might know, it's a meta framework for Vue.js. And from its documentation, modules are Nuxt.js extensions, which can extend its core functionality and add endless integrations. Pretty powerful, huh? But basically, what this means is that Nuxt modules are like add-ons to Nuxt. You can add them and update Nuxt with that. And concretely, this means that you can make, like the Earth module to make your Nuxt website a PWA, up to like flashing connected lights in your room if there's an error within your code, for example. I certainly did it later. But, well, and for a more concrete approach, Nuxt modules are registered inside Nuxt config. So it can be a package name you have installed, a module like that you have locally, or just the module code directly. And you can provide options to module using this array syntax or specific config keys declared by module. So, okay, that gives us a relative understanding of what Nuxt modules are about. But, well, let's just add some details to that. First of all, as we've seen, there's like Nuxt module for everything. And talking about PWA earlier on, well, guess what? There's a Nuxt module for that. It takes care of all the gotchas related to making that possible, and is easy to set up. Another random example, you want to connect to your favorite CMS, and you don't know what to do. Again, there's a module for that. It's maintained by a wonderful person. What more to ask? But okay, sure. There are also a lot of other great CMS modules out there, including our Storyblock friend over there. So you can go check out any of them. But you got my point. With Nuxt 3, you want to integrate with something, well, chances are that there's the Nuxt module for that. And you can go check out this website for the, well, nuxt.com/modules for the most comprehensive list of modules available out there. So, all right. Let's just now refocus on Nuxt 3 modules. And I want to tell you something really important about Nuxt 3 modules, is that you can make your own. Don't believe me? Well, I can prove that. chances are that if you're working with Nuxt, you're a developer. It happens that developers do write code sometimes. And, well, Nuxt modules are made just of that. And I don't know, but between you and me, I can see a pretty straight line from you to Nuxt modules. So you can make Nuxt modules. But, all right, more realistically, why would you want to make Nuxt modules of your own, especially with so many modules already out there? Well, there's multiple reasons for that. First of all, as we've seen, Nuxt modules can do pretty much anything. And in that regard, they are an excellent way to abstract code from different projects and share it reliably. This works great if you're an agency making websites for others or an enterprise managing different internal applications. I personally did so when I was working as a freelancer, and I had some modules to manage meta helpers, transform Nuxt payloads in a particular way, or even output statistics about my project. Another great reason to make Nuxt modules of your own is to facilitate integration with the tool you use. Indeed, while there are modules out there for tailoring or centering, there might not be one about a specific tool you use. In that case, why not create it? Maybe it's an internal tool, maybe it's something else, I don't know. And it doesn't need to be super fancy to get started. So, all right, sure, there are reasons to create Nuxt modules out there for everyone, but, well, how do we do it? Well, that's what I'm about to show you. Let's learn how to create Nuxt free modules together, and we'll do that concretely. So, the best way to get started and to create a Nuxt free module is to use Nuxt free CLI. And with that, with this command, we can bootstrap a Nuxt module, and then we just have to install dependencies with whatever package manager floats you bought, and you're up and running. But because I don't have any trust in the Wi-Fi connection of this room, I already did that ahead of time right here. So, well, we launched Nuxt free, we launched Nuxt C, and we ended up with that project. So what does it look like? Well, let's take a minute to tour that product structure. First of all, we have a few directories. We have the source directory, that is the source code of our module. We have some tests by default. We can forget about those for now. And we have a playground directory. This playground directory is just a Nuxt application configured with our module locally that we'll use to develop our module. Then we have the package.json file here. So inside it, there's a few things interesting to note. First of all, it's already configured to be shipped properly to NPM. You don't have to worry about that. Then, if we look at the scripts, there's multiple of them. The prepack scripts takes care of building a module, and it's using this fancy Nuxt module build command. This is an in-house builder developed by Nuxt on top of Rollup and all the cool tools, and basically just making sure that your code is bundled correctly the way Nuxt wants it to be bundled to be used properly within the Nuxt project. That's great, because you don't have to go through the headache of configuring a bundler or learning one just to ship your module. Then we have multiple dev commands. Those are used to interact with our playground when developing our module. We'll make use of them later on. Finally, we have a release script that is the default one we use on all the community modules at Nuxt. It's just like a one script, launch it all, and like deploy it to NPM, but we can fine-tune it to your liking if you need to. Regarding dependencies, well, we have Nuxt Kit installed. This is a collection of utilities provided by Nuxt to develop modules. We'll make use of it later on. And finally, we have Nuxt Module Builder, which is providing the build command we've seen before. Then, on our project, we have multiple root files. You know most of them, I'm sure. You can fine-tune them to your liking. One thing, though, if you plan to share your module with the community, it's nice to stick with the defaults, as this allows your module to share a consistent coding style with the other community modules available out there. Let's now focus on the src directory. Inside it, we have this module.ts file. This is our module entry point. And as you might have noticed, it's a TypeScript file. Indeed. With Nuxt free, TypeScript is the default for modules because it results in a much improved developer experience for end users. But no worries, if you're not comfortable with TypeScript, you can still develop module in plain JavaScript. But as this would get us a bit off track for today, we'll stick with that file, but everything will look like plain JavaScript. No worries about that. If we now peek inside it, as you see here, there's already some boilerplate code in it. Let's explain it. First of all, we're importing a few utilities from NuxtKit, namely define Nuxt module here. And, well, we'll make use of them later on. Then we have an interface. It's a way to describe an object structure in TypeScript. But as promised, no TypeScript black magic today, so we can safely ignore it. And then we have our module export right here, which makes use of the define next module helper provided by Nuxt, and our module is the object right here. So, well, let's explain the structure of this object. First of all, we have the meta property. This is a collection of metadata related to our module. The name of our module, the config key we'd like to use inside Nuxt config to resolve our module options. So if we check the playground here, you can see we can provide options with the my module key. There can be other type of metadata, like the module compatibility, but we don't need to know about those for today. Then we have the default key property here. This is where you can provide default options for your module that will get resolved against the options provided by your users to your module. Indeed, you can say that your module needs options to run, and if you don't want users to provide all of them, you can set up default here. And finally, we have the setup function right here. This is the code that will get executed by Nuxt when loading our module. It's a function that can be asynchronous if need be, but it's recommended to keep it synchronous, as otherwise it can have like some performance headache. It receives two arguments, the options the user provided, merged against the default options we defined here, and the next object we can use to interact with Nuxt. And here we have some boilerplate code by default, but we can safely get rid of it, as we will come back later to it. So, all right. That was a pretty dense section touring our module anatomy. And, well, this is really the most important thing to know about it, but just recap what we learned. First of all, creating a module can be done with Nuxt init. Modules come with new defaults and a bundler by Nuxt. This is quite a new improvement in the developer experience of module. Nuxt is a set of helpers to develop our module, and modules are TypeScript by default, and finally, modules are defined using the new define next module helper, also provided by Nuxt. So, as I said, just knowing that basic structure is already the most important part. But let's now try and do some few things with our module. But, well, I'm a bit constrained with time today, so I only have time for one demo. So I want to ask you, do you want me to show you how a module can provide style sheets and helpers to your project? Or do you want me to show you how a module can integrate with Nuxt DevTools, which is this new tool that we released with Nuxt earlier this year that is pretty exciting? So once again, please grab your phone and submit your vote. And, well, I will demo one of those too. All right, well, it's pretty even, but, well, we have like a majority for assets, so let's go with assets, and if we have extra time, we'll try to do the next DevTools, we'll see. So, well, assets it is, and this is an interesting path to take, because it's maybe the most straightforward way for you to get value out of the modules you do. When we think about assets with a module, we think about the runtime directory, which is this directory, this right here that I ignored until now. Inside it, you can provide any kind of assets you want your module to inject, whether it's a style sheet, a Vue component, composables, or even 3D models, as we've seen before with Vue.js. And, well, so let's start and do something really basic with it. To start with, we'll start by just try to provide a style sheet. So right now, my next application, it has a white background here. We'll create a style.css file. We'll add some style to it. So I go background. No, well, not background. Sorry, body. Background. Red. And now, once we have this style CSS file, how do I inject it with my module? Well, we'll go back to our module here, and we need to do two things to inject it. First of all, we need to create a resolver. So to do so, we have already imported the create resolver helper from Nuxt. So we'll go const resolver equal create resolver. And we'll provide it with our module, the current file path, so import.meta.url, which looks a bit like dark magic, but basically here we're just creating a helper that helps us to resolve paths consistently within our file system. So once we have this helper, we can just access next.options.css, and we'll just push the path of our CSS file. So we go resolver.resolve, and we provide it with a path. So we'll go inside runtime directory, and we want our CSS file. So now I can save that, go back to my terminal, give a restart to my Nuxt server. And while Nuxt is taking its time to restart, I'm on Windows, everything is slow on Windows, what we can notice here is that to inject our CSS file, we just access Nuxt options. Indeed, Nuxt modules can read and update Nuxt options like as they want from Nuxt config. And so now, if Nuxt should be done restarting, you can now see we have our big flashy red background injected inside an application from our module. Great. So, so let's keep working with our module for a bit, and let's see how, for example, we can inject a plugin from it. So Nuxt plugins are a thing in Nuxt that allows you to inject things inside your runtime application. So default module starter comes with one. I just added this small formatting utilities here for the demo purpose. And so how do I inject this module inside my application from my module? To do so, I need to do three things. First of all, I need to resolve my plugin path. So again, I use my resolver, and I go resolver.resolve, and we just check the path for our plugin. So it's runtime/plugin. We can get rid of the TS extension. And then we need to tell Nuxt to transpile our plugin. So go Nuxt options.build.transpile.push, and we push our plugin to it. And finally, we make use of the add plugin helper provided by Nuxtkit to tell Nuxt that you need to load this plugin. So I go add plugin. And now I can save all of that, give Nuxt a restart. And again, while it's restarting, this time it should be faster because it's a bit warmed up. Inside my playground here, I just made a log, like if it's available at my module, then I just make a log of it. And I can go back here, inspect the code, and as soon as it's loaded, we shall see our code showing up. If Nuxt is callable. Okay, here we go. You can see here inside my console, I have the log of the formatting utilities we injected from our module. So, okay, well, that's two interesting things. Let's do a third one. With Nuxt, you might be like familiar with auto imports. It's like when you have components inside your imports directory, inside your components directory, they are auto imported. You don't need to import them. Well, modules too can provide auto imports. So I created this little imports directory inside my runtime directory here with a few utilities, like just a lorem ipsum, some ping, and something that predicts the Bitcoin value. So, well, thank you for liking my silly jokes. So, well, how do I add all those utilities to import in my Nuxt application? Well, to do so, I can just use the add import dir utility, also provided by Nuxtkit. To it, I just need to do a resolver.resolve once again to resolve a file path, and I just give it the runtime and /import, and this will make everything in this folder auto-imported inside my Nuxt application. So here again, I can give my Nuxt a quick restart. I can go check out my app here. I will uncomment this line right here. So right now we see like there's no like type definition. Well, actually, here we go. We now have type definition from them because Nuxt auto-imported them for me and like created this type definition for me. And if we go back to our browser here to the console, we'll see we have like the pong for the ping pong, the lorem ipsum, and the Bitcoin value for the next roundup. So, all right. So this was an example of what modules can do. Of course, we can do a lot more, like adding auto-imports for composables, adding auto-imports for components, interacting with Nitro, Nuxt Server Engine. You can do really powerful things with that, or also using Nuxt lifecycle hooks and more, and many more. But, well, don't fear of missing out. We documented plenty of use cases on Nuxt module documentation, and, well, you'll be able to follow all of that. So, well, that's not all, folks. There's one last thing I need to talk to you about, is that there are some extra perks to learning Nuxt modules. And the first one is that by learning Nuxt modules, you'll get a deeper understanding of how Nuxt works, its internals and behaviors, and this will allow you to troubleshoot Nuxt issues you have with Nuxt in a more easy way. And a related fun fact to that is that Nuxt itself is partly made out of modules and rely on module APIs. Another thing that by being familiar with Nuxt module structure, this also allows you to have a better understanding of the module you use. In that regard, feel free to go ahead and have a look at the source code of the module you use. For example, if we have a look at Nuxt color mode module source code, we can see that it's using this neat pattern of using a Nuxt alias to inject its options inside Nuxt runtime. Well, that's how I learned a lot about Nuxt, really, and you can do too. Second thing, now that we're familiar with Nuxt, our Nuxt modules work and everything, this all empowers you to contribute to the ecosystem. You found a bug while using a module, you can fix it. You're craving for a feature on your favorite module, go and open pull request. This community is really friendly to newcomers, and personally, that's how I became comfortable with open source and started my journey, and you can do it too. And if you don't know where to get started, again, just head to nuxt.com/module for a comprehensive list of community modules available with Nuxt Free. So that was my talk, Nuxt Free modules and open source. I really hope you learned a few things about Nuxt modules. There are ways to extend Nuxt functionalities endlessly. You can make Nuxt modules for your team, your company, or for the whole community. Nuxt modules and Nuxt is structured with Nuxt Free and come with an improved developer experience. Learning that structure gives you a better understanding of Nuxt and allows you to get involved in the community. You can find all the resources about this talk, slides, source code, transcript, and more at lucie.red/London. You can also follow me on Twitter for more about Nuxt and more of my nonsense, or Mastodon for the cool kids. Thanks, everyone.